Springbok media conference. We've got, or team announcement rather, we've got head coach Jacques Nienaber, we've got Loet de Jager and Cheslin. If you can just move closer, please, Cheslin. And Cheslin Colby today. Guys, how are we going to format the media conferences to ensure that we maximize the time for our South African media and the New Zealand media in attendance? Is the first 15 minutes, the floor will be open to questions from South Africa. Please get in your Afrikaans questions in that 15 minutes, and then after that we will go, the remaining 15 minutes will be for the journalists in attendance here in New Zealand. So without further ado, please also just raise your hand when you have a question, and then we can go to you for that. Awesome. So first question, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Zina. I'll start with you, Chezi. Chezi, what do you make of your teammates' performance in Pretoria last week? And as players, does that performance put more pressure on you guys that left early for New Zealand?
Hi, first, good morning. Yeah, obviously a wonderful performance from the team. Always great to see players get opportunity and perform the way they did. And just for us also to make sure that we prepare them as well as we could while we were in South Africa before we left coming to New Zealand. So yeah, definitely great to see the way the boys played over the weekend. And I'm sure there's still a lot that we would like to improve on and that we can rectify going up into the Rugby Championship.
Guys, can I please ask that we just all ask one question at first so that we can give as many people a chance to ask questions as possible. And then we will, if there is another opportunity, we'll take your second question. So Craig Ray.
Morning, guys, or evening, guys. Morning from South Africa. Just Jacques, obviously some players had to double up from last week. I think, Kitshoff, Frans Malherbe, Lucanio Am. Yeah, it's never perfect because you don't have enough players to send a full squad there in advance. How are those guys integrated? I know they would have done a lot of training, but in terms of jet lag and getting over that, is that one area of concern for you?
No, I think the plan was always to with the two squads that we or not two full squads, but sending guys here a little bit earlier obviously gives you the benefit of them adjusting to the different time zones. But the benefit for the guys who stayed and played a test match is they probably got they got exposure to top international rugby, which the guys who's here probably haven't had, so there's a little bit of pros and cons in both. So as these guys are sitting here, bodies nice and fresh and well adjusted or better adjusted to the time zones, they haven't had international rugby exposure. But the other guys are maybe a little bit stiff and sore today and are adjusting to the time zones, but they have had a proper test match under the belt. So I think, Craig, it's a little bit of pros and cons for both. And but they, both adjusted well in the training session, and looking forward to see. I think if you look at the squad or the team that we selected on that topic, is that you can see we've almost tried, and I won't say perfectly balanced it, but I think there is a good blend of guys that's nice and fresh and well adjusted in terms of time zones, and then there's also guys that have had a proper heat out against Australia. So almost trying to get that balance.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Zina. How's it, guys? How's it, Rock? Very interesting loose trio you've named there, one we haven't really seen before. How have they been in training, and are you quite confident that they'll be able to gel quite nicely off the bat against New Zealand?
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it's one that we haven't combined. So's played, or Franco Mostert played the majority when in 2021. I think he played a lot of open side for us, blind side for us, 7. And Kwacha has played a lot of games for us. But yes, I think it's an exciting loose trio. Obviously, like I mentioned now, some guys had the opportunity against Australia, and these guys get the opportunity now. And looking forward to see how they'll perform.
Jan? Jan?
Yeah, no, sorry, apologies. I struggled a bit with the mic there. Jacques Jan de Koning. Your halfback combination, scrum half, fly half. Talk to us about what are you expecting. Obviously, we saw what happened last week and we had really good results from that. Now you've got a very different halfback combination. Do you expect the same style? Or do you expect different things from them?
I think, on the halfbacks, I'm very, obviously, Kobus is a very experienced guy, and it was Marnie's first start for us, and I thought Marnie did well in terms of driving the team forward and making good decisions, and probably that's the same thing. We've got Damien and Faf has played together before. And I think in terms of your question, do we expect the same thing? Yes, we will obviously we'll see different pictures from New Zealand than what we saw from Australia. So basically, what do we want from our 9 and 10 is to make good decisions and to make sure that our back's going forward. And like I said, the pictures and opportunities will be different because it's a different team.
Morgan?
Thank you. Hi, Coach. On Saturday, Coach Stick said that there were a handful of players that had played themselves into the team for New Zealand. And just looking at the team that you guys have sent out now, who are those players that managed to make this team after their performance against Australia? And
I think,
who went
I think that we pretty much we were open with the players, so they pretty much had a good idea of who will play in the test match on both sides. I mean, we were open and honest with them from the start. But obviously the New Zealand side weren't selected because of their injuries, because of form and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go into too much detail in terms of who played themselves in. We always had the idea, like I mentioned before, that we would like to, if it was possible, to have a blend between guys that have travelled early and guys that have played against Australia, to almost get that balance right, and having guys that, let's call it battle hardened, guys that's battle hardened, that had a test match under their belt, and then guys that's fresh. We always thought of having that blend. That's why I think in last week's presser we mentioned a couple of times that the guys that have travelled here, some of them will not even be in the match day 23. Some of them will not start because that was always at the back of our head, that we will try and blend it as much as possible.
Percy?
Baie dankie Zina. Zina, ek het 'n Afrikaanse vraag net vir Loot en vir Cheslin. Meneer, ek vra net die vraag, Loot, julle afvatters besluit op Eben Etzebeth, 'n baie ervare man as julle leier vir hierdie naweek se wedstryd. Hy was lank weg van die wedstryd gewees. Sê gou vinnig iets vir my van omtrent Eben Etzebeth met sy ervaring en wat verwag julle van die tuisspan? Hulle kom ook met groot selfvertroue terug van Argentinië af. Baie dankie. Julle albei.
Hi Percy, ek dink op Eben, hy was al voorheen Springbok kaptein. Hy's 'n ou, die mees ervare ou in die span of in die groep. Iemand wat ons almal baie respek voor het en hy wat lei deur sy aksies, so is maklik om so te volg. Ek dink New Zealand is altyd 'n harde wedstryd, altyd 'n baie taai opponent en vir alles hulle in New Zealand speel ook met baie trots vir die try en dit gaan Saterdag weer eens 'n groot toets wees vir ons as 'n span.
Ja, van my kant af dieselfde wat Lot ook gesê het. Eben is al hier vir baie jaar, baie ervaring en hy's 'n professionele atleet en ons almal kyk ook op na hom en hy's net 'n ou wat lei op die veld en verwag net van almal rondom hom om dieselfde te doen ook.
Ken?
Thanks, Sina. Morning, guys. Jacques, you must be very happy with how things have turned out. I mean, it was obviously maybe a little bit of a gamble with the team you selected last weekend, but they obviously did the business in very good fashion. And now, as you've said, you're able to take on the All Blacks with pretty much exactly the blend team that you wanted, and you've got a very good result behind you already. Is it also, I mean, never mind whether teams are first choice, second choice, whatever. It seems to be the team that you've played against the All Blacks a lot over the last couple of years. So is it more about specific things that the All Blacks bring in the game, that this is the best team to counter those things?
Yeah, Ken, it's Ken. Ken, yeah, you can ask. Yeah, Ken. I think the probably the first thing is that we know that we will we need a squad to build momentum during the Rugby Championship. And to try and be competitive and win the Rugby Championship, we know that we need a squad, and we also need a squad for the 2 warm-up games that we're going to play against Wales and against the All Blacks at Twickenham, and then we will need a squad going into the World Cup. So I think the thing is, and we said it from the start, there wasn't an A and a B side. Like you rightly mentioned, I think now is that the team that we selected to play against Australia is a team that we felt had the right mix to be competitive with Australia, and the same with this one. Obviously, we weren't as because of injuries, and there could have been injury changes. We weren't 100% sure of how this team would pan out, but the team that we selected for this weekend is obviously a team that we feel can be competitive against a very good New Zealand side. And I think if you look at the last couple of exchanges that we had between ourselves and New Zealand, they were always close, and that's the nature of the competition between the 2 countries. So yes, I think the main thing is we will need a squad, and just as the guys, Cheslin and Lewis and the guys who came over early had the responsibility of preparing that Australian side to put out a good performance against Australia. The guys who've travelled here now, who's not in the team, has got the same responsibility of preparing these guys as good as they can for a New Zealand side, like you rightly say, on form. They had a good result over the weekend. They were impressive. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. Like we've said from the start, there was no A and a B side, and the team that we selected for the 2 teams are teams that we feel would be good to do the job for us.
Good, so. Good, so we can hardly hear you.
Just wanted to find out who's been given the responsibility for kicking responsibility.
Kicking responsibilities. We can't hear you very well.
Yes, I think your question was kicking responsibility. Am I right? I think they.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That's much better.
All right. Just wanted to find out who's been given the kicking responsibilities.
Yes, I think we haven't had a like we. I'll take you back to the end of year tour last year. We said, listen, our kickers are kicking, and Cheslin is kicking for poles. He can kick for poles. He did in the end of year tour. Damian Willemse is kicking for poles, as he did on the end of year tour. Faf is kicking for poles like he did on the end of year tour. So we've got a couple of options, and between them, they will probably make a decision. And we're measuring their trainings and their kicks at poles, and who's in good form and rhythm. And obviously between them and Stocker and because I don't know anything about kicking, but they will probably have a good discussion in terms of who will start and who will not. In terms of kicking for poles, I mean.
Guys, we can take 2 more questions, so please keep them short. We'll take Leighton and Simon, and then unfortunately that's all we can do for South African questions.
Thank you, Z. Morning, Jacques, Cheslin, and Louet. Jacques, just for you, please. Was there a temptation to stray away from a 6-2 split for this game, or was it always in your plans to go 6-2 again?
Yeah, the question between a 5-3 and a 6-2 is always for us. If we have the versatility in terms of the back line, and we have like for like players, if I can put it like that, that's on the bench versus the guys that's starting. We and it's available for us. We will go with a 6-2 split. Yeah, so it's not always something that we strive towards. It depends on the makeup of whoever's starting and who's available from a forwards perspective, and almost. Yeah, that I would say is the decision-making process between are we going to go 6 if maybe niggles or injury doubts, guys that can train, but let's say they had a bump or a bruise during the weekend or during the week, and we may be nervous that there's a backline player that might not finish the game. Then obviously the risk is a little bit too much. But yeah, so 6-2 split or 5-3, it's something we sit down and we discuss. And there's a couple of factors that play a role in us deciding, are we going to go with a 6-2 or are we going to go with a 5-3?
Simon, you can wrap it up for us.
Dankie Zina, Afrikaans vir julle Jacques. Julle speel by die Mount Smart stadion. Ian Jones, die oud All Black, sê dit is soos om op 'n neutrale veld te speel. Hoe voel julle daaroor dat julle op daardie veld speel en nie op Eden Park nie?
Ja, in terme van my, nee, ek was nog nooit daar nie. Ja, dis een van die veld, ja, ek het al so baie stadions hier gespeel, North Harbour, Pukekowie, Eden Park. Ja, so jy was nog nooit daar nie, so dit sal die eerste vir ons wees. Ja, en ons sal seker Vrydag kapteinsoefening daar gaan hê en dan sal ons sien hoe lyk die veld vir die eerste keer. Hoeveel dit vir ons maak dit nie 'n verskil nie. Ek bedoel, of ons dit nou op Eden Park speel en of ons dit nou hier speel, of op 'n ander veld speel, dit maak nie saak nie. Dit is net vir ons 'n ongelooflike geleentheid. Om in Nieu-Seeland teen Nieu-Seeland te speel. Jy weet, ons het laas gedoen in 2019. Ek het nou vir die media van Nieu-Seeland gesê, van 1999 af dink ek kom ek elke jaar Nieu-Seeland toe saam met die Stormers en die Cheetahs en daai spanne. En die Cats, daai tyd in 1999, hou altyd ten minste vir 2 weke met Super Rugby, het jy 'n jaar hiernatoe gekom, en nou ewe skielik van 2019 af, as ons net nooit weer hier nie. So, dis so half, ja, dis net lekker om weer in Nieu-Seeland te wees, en om die kan ek maar sê, die vibe van toets rugby in Nieu-Seeland te ervaar. Ons weet hoe belangrik rugby in Nieu-Seeland is, en hoe belangrik die All Blacks vir Nieu-Seeland is. So net om deel te wees daarvan, wel vir my persoonlik is net lekker om weer te wees.
Cool. Thank you, guys. We are going to leave the camera and the microphone on, so you're more than welcome to listen in. We're just going to take questions from the floor over here in New Zealand. So, guys.
Hey, Jacques. The last time you faced the All Blacks at Ellis Park, they were a bit of a different team. They were a team in a bit of a crisis. Since then, in your analysis that you've done of them, what sort of growth have you seen in the All Blacks? And what kind of All Blacks team do you think you're going to run into on Saturday night?
So I think, yeah, it's funny if you I remember when it was written in the press that New Zealand are in a crisis. You know, if they lose 2 games or if their win percentage drop below 85% or below 80%, it's a crisis. You know, which a lot of teams in the world are striving for. So I think crisis from my perspective is what's the right word in English? It's subjective. They just had a couple of bad runs, you know, and there was a couple of cards against the Australia game that probably some went for them, some went against them, and then with how close the top 10 teams are towards each other currently in the world, I think that might be the difference between winning a game with a couple of points or losing a game. So I think, yeah, they're definitely back on form and they've got back their confidence. I think after that, if I'm not mistaken, they were on a pretty good run. They won the Rugby Championship. On the end of year tour, they were on great form. And yeah, they had an unbelievable performance against, not unbelievable, they had a very good performance against Argentina. We know how tough it is to go to Mendoza and perform there. So yeah, no, I believe we know we're going to get a proper test match on Saturday.
Jacques, is it still just as daunting as what has been in the past to come to New Zealand and play the All Blacks? Or is some of that aura gone after seeing the likes of Argentina, Ireland, knock them over at home?
No, it's always no. For me, it will always be one of the biggest test matches in the world, and for us, I think the rivalry has been over 100 years, or 100 test matches, 100 years that we've played against each other. So the rivalry is also massive. No, and for us, New Zealand hasn't lost their aura. They still a formidable side. That's why they are ranked highly and consistently high in the world.
Look, the hopeful of welcoming back Sam Whitelock. He's on track to return. What does he add to that All Blacks pack?
Yeah, I think he adds a lot. He's obviously a very experienced player, very good in the lineouts, great lineout forward, and he's good around the park, got a good work rate, and yeah, he's a very, very good player, and he's massive for them in their pack. Like I said, brings a lot of experience, and he's a guy that grafts around the field, works really hard, and a type of a no-nonsense player. So yeah, I think it'll make a big difference to their pack if he plays.
Speaking of, how much more confident are you to have Eben out there on field with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Eben, like I've mentioned previously, he's a very experienced player, our most experienced player, and he's a guy that leads by his actions and takes control of his job on the field and tries to help others as well. So for me, yeah, it's great for me to have him with me on the field. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Jack, this is the Springboks first time in 4 years. Being in New Zealand Super Rugby no longer. How much do you think South African rugby misses more regular contact?
Yeah, that's probably going to be my personal opinion. But I think South African rugby is in a good state in terms of that. We get the best of both worlds. We get exposure to the URC in the Northern Hemisphere competitions, the Heineken Cup. So you get different countries, different styles. When you coach in the URC, and when I was with Rassie at Munster. The funny thing was that we were in the Pro 12 back then, so there was 12 teams in the Pro 12, and we coached against more New Zealand coaches then than in Super Rugby, because in Super Rugby it was only the 5 New Zealand teams, where you got exposure to a lot of New Zealand coaches who's applying their trade up north, and then obviously that's the club side of things. And then we're lucky and fortunate from a Springbok point of view to still get the exposure in the Rugby Championship. So you get that almost because of probably external conditions and stuff like that. You get almost this test match grinding if you play at Connacht in Ireland and it's wet and windy. You have to grind out the game. It's not so conducive for keeping ball in hand. So you must find other ways to apply pressure on teams. So you get that kind of exposure with the URC. But then sometimes there you can play on a 4G pitch and it's a beautiful day and the game is as quick as it is in Super Rugby. But then we obviously, I think, we get the exposure with the Boks playing against quality sides with great individuals that can create magic through playing against Argentina, Australia, New Zealand. So I think we're in a good position. Again, it's me personally. I feel we're in a good position in terms of South African rugby that we get that exposure to both sides, to the north and the south.
For the players who come early or to prepare for the game, what's that kind of allowed you guys to do in order to prepare for this weekend's game? And does it feel like you guys have a slight advantage, those players in particular, I guess, climatizing into the weather and preparing for the game?
I think first and foremost was for us to come over and get used to the weather and climatize over here. So that definitely does. It's an advantage. we still have to go out and play 80, 85 minutes on the field and play to the best of our ability at the end of the day. So it all depends up to us as players and the coaching staff, what we do during the week and what the build-up will be leading up to the weekend.
And you guys had Siya come along, Siya Kolisi come along with you guys as well. His presence, I mean, you know, he is recovering from injury. What's his presence on the Spurs trips in New Zealand? How that impacted you guys, helping you guys out?
Yeah, it's always good having Siya around. You know, he's been our captain for such a long time, and he's such a integral part of our group. He's just a nice guy overall to have around the squad, and he's working hard every single day to get back as soon as he can. So no, it's been great having him around.
Cheslin, the All Blacks were talking today about how much they relish the rivalry with South Africa and how special it is to play tests against the Springboks. From your perspective, the rivalry with the All Blacks, how much do you enjoy that? How much is that a challenge you really look forward to?
No, obviously it's been a rivalry for years, and whenever the Springboks and New Zealand meet, it's always a tough battle, and it will continue to be that way, sure. And for us, as I said, and I'm a firm believer, it's what you do during the week and what confidence you can get throughout that, and taking that out onto the field as well. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting test match, and one that I'm sure each and every player is also looking forward to this coming weekend.
I choose them last week, killed the Aaron, so obviously paper cracker, 3 tries. Does that sort of make you want to raise your game?
Well, I think the nice thing about this group is we learn from each other, we push each other to the limits just to get the best out of each and every one. We just want to contribute where we can contribute for the team, and just to see the things that we train during the week play on the game day. It's fantastic to see, and it's just for us to raise the ball for each and every time we get out on the field and get the opportunity to wear that green and gold jersey. So really exciting for Kirkley and what he's been doing since he started. And I'm sure there's a lot of amazing things to still come.
Jacques, where is Siya at? It's like he's running today.
Yeah, no, he's. Did you say he's running today? Yeah, he's doing very well. He's a hard worker, professional. Just as Eben, you know, Eben. In the beginning, it was touching. Yeah, this game was touch and go. But in terms of the prediction, and sometimes you might miss it with a week or two, but they were very diligent and worked incredibly hard. And Siya's doing the same thing. So so we feel he's on track. Definitely on track.
Jacques, you're probably used to either one of Bowden Barrow or Richie Mo'unga steering the ship for the All Blacks. Last week it was Damien McKenzie. Obviously, they haven't named their team this week yet, but do you kind of have to prepare for a bit of an unknown quantity in Damien? He hasn't played a lot of Test rugby at first 5 if the All Blacks do decide to go with him again.
Yeah, I would say we obviously coached against him a lot in Super Rugby. And yes, he played the majority of the games, I would say at 15, but he's also slotted in at 10 for the Chiefs back then. And we obviously had a very close eye on Super Rugby and followed him and the Chiefs' performance over the season. They were a house on fire. I think they were probably from the start. They were one of the informed teams. So yeah, we know he's a quality rugby player. As always have been, you know, and with the other 2 prospects there as well. They very well known, very good. So it's going to be a nice challenge for us.
I think you might have been asked to play home video, but is Mount Smart any less intimidating than Eden Park? Obviously, without that incredible record.
Yes, I haven't been there at that stadium before. So obviously Eden Park is special. And a special stadium to play in, and we haven't actually. I can't remember when's the last time that we actually played. We played in the 2014 Junior World Cup. I think we played against England at Eden Park. So that's probably the last time that I've been involved in a game at Eden Park. But no, for us, it just like I mentioned before we started, just the fact that for me personally, being in New Zealand and it's something that you so take for granted. Over 20 odd years, you're probably going to end up in New Zealand for 2 weeks, any give or take. And like I said now, myself and Rusty's been part of the 2011 World Cup, which were hosted here. I've been here for the 2014 World Cup. So you've been here for extended periods of time. So just to be here again is phenomenal. And just to play against New Zealand in New Zealand is something that you so take for granted. And when it goes away for 4 years, it's just nice to be back. So we will play. It doesn't matter if it's Eden Park or Pukekohe or Whangarei. Anyway, we'll just the opportunity to test yourself against them. It's going to be awesome.
And last question.
Is Razzie happy to be back? Thank you.
Everyone
Thank you very much.
Cheers.